Hi, I'm Paul Hyde. I'm the CEO of AMDEA, and we're the trade association that represents manufacturers of domestic appliances, large and small.
Paul, thanks for talking to the Affinity Water podcast series. We're looking at the labelling of white goods, which is on the government's agenda. Can you just start by outlining what's going to happen, why, and how the government is pushing this agenda forward?
Well, last year the government commissioned a review of the various labelling requirements and with potential changes that might require more information to the user or purchaser of appliances. That review closed in November of last year, but we're yet to hear from DEFRA of any outputs of that review and therefore what changes might be forthcoming.
Why is the labelling of white goods a good thing?
Well, it's a good thing primarily from helping people to understand what the water consumption alongside the energy consumption of their appliances are, and equally how to minimise that consumption, both from an environmental impact and a cost perspective. So we certainly support the provision of useful information.
And what white goods will be covered? All of them or just some?
Well, because the review's not complete yet, we don't yet know. However, I think the key thing to say is already there's a requirement for large appliances such as washing machines, washer dryers and dishwashers to display the water consumption per cycle, which is on the existing energy label. So actually, the appliances in your home that arguably use the most water already, new appliances already have to display that information. So it's there for you to see when you're considering a purchase.
But perhaps the smaller ones, like a coffee machine, may not. Is that right?
Yes, at the moment the energy labelling only applies to a restricted number of large appliances and therefore the water information. Obviously what's not clear yet from the consultation with government is whether they will extend that requirement to other water using appliances, and if they do, what information will be required to be presented to the user or purchaser.
Now, is there a timeline for this? The consultation has now ended. It started in the autumn and lasted 3 months. But do we know when these new rules are going to come into force?
Unfortunately, with all these consultations, we never know exactly when the government will announce their findings. So that the process is normally within 6 months of a consultation closing. I say normally, then the government will announce their findings, and then from that there will be a period of consultation should there be new regulations required, and then normally a period of implementation allow for those changes to be implemented, the information to be collated or the labelling to be produced, etc. So it can take a year or even more from a decision being made to it actually being implemented in the market, accepting that manufacturers can always provide that information earlier if they choose to do so.
So here I am shopping in a Currys or about to go online to Amazon or another provider of white goods. Now, what will I as a consumer notice as the difference that this new labelling will make? Will it just be sort of more gobbledygook on the label, or will I be making a saving by the introduction of these new rules?
Well, if we look at the labelling that's there now and the existing energy labelling scheme, which includes water information for, say, washing machines and dishwashers, and that labelling was uprated to include this information back in 2021. So actually, if you look at these appliances today in store, you will see part of the information on the label tells you the water consumption per cycle of that appliance. So therefore, when you're making a new purchase, at least you can compare one product versus another, and you can look at the relative water efficiency of those appliances. So that will clearly give you an idea on helping you to buy the best in class for your given budget.
And what about the future? There's going to be separate labels, aren't there? That's the suggestion. One label for energy and one label for water. And that will be clearer.
Well, that's possible, yes. I mean, I guess our concern is it would be nonsensical to have the same information twice. So if a product's already displaying that information, we don't believe it's sensible to insist on manufacturers basically displaying the same information or a different variant of information twice. So we have said where the regulations already require the information to be imparted on water consumption, it clearly there's no benefit to the consumer to tell them the same thing twice. However, where there's gaps, and clearly many products don't have to display it, we're certainly not against the provision of that useful information. I mean, a lot of this information is there within product specifications and manuals, but clearly it's not there in an easily digestible format when you're looking to buy products. And we are very focused as an industry on improving people's understanding of sustainability and how to use appliances the most economically, both from water and energy. And therefore we absolutely back decisions that provide consistent information that as users we can easily understand and use it to make informed decisions.
And of course those symbols, we've seen it when we're shopping for food, the symbols sort of like the food high in fat, sugar, salt, red, yellow, amber, they're really useful to shoppers and consumers, aren't they? So might we see symbols on the water labelling of white goods?
I think, as you say, it's important that if you're imparting information, it's in a very easy to understand format. Because if you get into too much detail, I think we all tend to glaze over and ignore it. And if you look at the energy labelling equivalent, the thing that's made it simple is it's an A to G. So it's very easy to understand that an A is better than a B or a D. Once you get into the actual litres per hour consumed or litres per cycle, it gets a little bit more tricky to make a meaningful comparison. So therefore, if we had a labelling scheme that said A was best in class at this band of consumption and F was the lowest in class, then I would agree, it would make it easy for people to compare, best versus less best.
And the reason for wanting to buy goods that use less energy or less water is, as you say, Paul, sustainability, isn't it?
That's the long-term goal, in helping people move their homes towards a net zero or net environmental impact. Because actually, as an industry, we're looking at the whole impact of the environment, from the sourcing of raw materials to the end-of-life recycling. And lots of manufacturing plants now use closed water loop systems. So clearly water is used in the production of appliances, but there's many factories globally now that are using a closed water loop system. So they're not extracting additional water from the environment to make those appliances. But actually, up to 80% of an appliance's water and energy consumption is in the usage phase. So it's once it's in the home. So therefore, actually, how much water it uses every cycle and how we use the appliances and the settings we use over its life is going to have the biggest environmental impact.
Should we just sort of take a look? Tell me, because this is something that, can I just use a bit of jargon, does our head in? Because you think, should I put it on the eco setting, my washing machine or my dishwasher? And you see the eco setting takes 3 hours, whereas if you put it on a fast setting, it's an hour. So come on, the eco setting can't be more efficient, can't be more sustainable.
Well, I think that's a reasonable assumption to make, and we recognise that many people make that. However, the eco setting is not done in terms of making an appliance work quickly. It's done in making it work the most efficiently and using the least amount of water and energy. And the eco settings, and there's a set standard here, so manufacturers have to go through a set test process, so there's rigour behind the process. Typically, using an eco setting versus a fast setting will use up to 40% less water on the same cycle and still achieve the washing or cleaning results that you would expect. So,
even though it takes 3 hours?
Yes, because by taking a longer time, it uses much less water and less energy to do it. I mean, the appliance is designed to operate that way, and the specifications will show you the relevant reduction. I mean, I suppose to use a comparative example, if I drive from London to Birmingham at 80 miles an hour and I drive at 40 miles an hour, I'll get there a lot quicker if I drive at 80. But I think most people would recognise I burn a lot more fuel. Well, it's the same comparison with an appliance. Doing something fast is not the same as doing it very energy or water efficiently.
And of course, if you don't heat as much water, you also save energy in your home. I know in the autumn of this year, when we were all talking about energy costs, and we still are spiralling energy costs, you did do an education campaign as regards the cost of energy, didn't you?
Yes, so we launched a campaign called Know What's What, and this information can all be sourced from AMDIA's website, so www.amdia.org.uk, and it provides lots of helpful tips and hacks on how to use your appliances efficiently. It's primarily around, not saying you have to buy new appliances, but how to use what you've got efficiently. But it also provides information on there if you are replacing appliances, what do I need to look for? How do I make sense of the energy labelling? But to use your example, electric showers are a great example where it's far more efficient just to heat the water that comes out of an electric shower as you shower than actually heating a whole hot water system if you primarily use it for showering, particularly in the summer when you're probably not using a central heating system. So yeah, the appliances you use and how they use them can have a big impact on your total environmental footprint in a home.
So, Paul, we're in your office. I won't lie, it's not your home, but you have got a dishwasher. Why?
Well, this is a service office facility, so we've got coffee makers, dishwashers, we've got a hot tap facility, so the things you need to sustain yourself during the working day, Bonnie.
Okay, well, let's just take a walk to your kitchenette and see. And do you, hand on heart, always put your office dishwasher? Oh, and there's the coffee machine, and water is coming out as we speak.
Yep, there you go. So that's, as you say, the coffee machine. Obviously, it's sometimes maybe harder to influence the amount of water setting you have, but with the dishwashers, if you're setting them on, you've always got the option to set the eco setting to ensure that you are using it the most energy efficiently.
Right, here's the dishwasher.
So as you can see there, Bonnie, you've got, and all dishwashers have these, as do all washing machines now. They have to have them, the regulation said. You've got an eco button there in the settings where you can set the washer type. If you hit that eco button, not only does it wash at a cooler temperature, but a temperature hot enough to get all your dishes clean, it will probably use 40% less water, 40% less energy than washing it on a standard auto setting. So, and certainly, I'm very much in the habit at home of I always put my dishwasher on eco, and I always put my washing machine on eco. So I am definitely of the mindset of trying to save money and save the amount of water I use.
It's amazing how many appliances we actually have in the office that use water.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, pretty much all offices have dishwashers, don't they? They all have hot water taps. They probably all have coffee machines. Even boiling the kettle, you know. Apart from black tea, most of us do not need kettles to boil at a boiling temperature. If you're making things like coffee, things like 90 degrees is enough. Well, if you're always putting a kettle on at 90 degrees, over a year you'll use significantly less energy to heat that kettle than always boiling it.
Yeah, we can just hear your colleagues coming for lunch. But just recap, on this dishwasher at the moment, there would be an energy and water label that would tell you when you bought it how much energy and water it used.
Yes, so all washing machines, washer dryers and dishwashers have to, by law, have an energy label which should be displayed at the point of sale in your retailer or online if you're buying through an online retailer, which gives you the water consumption of litres per cycle as well as the comparative energy consumption and efficiency on an A to G rating. So if you look at those labels when you're considering appliances, you'll be able to make a comparison of one versus the other in terms of relative consumption. The more information that's plastered over a product, the less likely you are to read it. But the important thing is you have that information on there and it's of a comparable format. What we may well see as a result of the regulation review is more appliances having to display that information. So those appliances that don't currently have a label having to have them as well. And we don't think that's a bad thing at all.
That would be the coffee machine and the kettle.
Well, yeah, quite possibly. Absolutely, yeah. The energy consumption and the relative water consumption, yeah, absolutely.
Good, well, let's put this dishwasher on. We've got it all stacked up, so let's go.
There you go, the eco button and the start button, and then away it goes.
Thank you. And as an association, Amida, did you make any particular representations to government about the introduction of white good labelling? Because as you said at the moment, some do it voluntarily, but this would be to make it compulsory to label white goods with water use. So anything you're concerned about as an association?
No, I think we very much support the idea of labelling. We very much supported the revised energy labelling scheme, the recognition of moving the scales as appliance efficiency for both water and energy improves. And we also very much supported the existing appliances that already show water consumption. So I think the important thing is that you have a system that is displays the information in a very easily digestible format. So we don't support having two energy labels for water, an existing and a new one on the same appliance. I think that's nonsensical, but we definitely support a consistent measurement and display approach for any appliances that use water, whether that's a hot tap, a shower, a washing appliance, whatever that is. The more information we can give to us as users and householders in using our finite resources efficiently is the right thing to do in our thinking.
And will manufacturers be able to step up to the mark? I think we're kind of thinking this change will come about in about 18 months' time, probably at the quickest. But will manufacturers have to make changes to how they produce goods, or is it just the labelling? You mentioned an interesting stat there that most of the water use in terms of white goods comes in how the householder uses the appliance, not in the making of the appliance.
I think both areas need to be dealt with. What we're seeing is pretty much all of our member manufacturers and brands now have an overall net zero objective from cradle to grave. So effectively they're all looking at how they move to net zero production, so zero environmental impact. And there's already factories achieving that, not only through the closed loop water systems I talked about, but only sourcing green energy or having their own solar energy that will power their plants. And that's, we're not there, but that's growing fast. So there's a big investment going on in generating net zero. But of course, as I said, you're using those finite resources once you've purchased the appliance in many cases. So there's two things then going on. There's a constant improvement in energy efficiency of appliances. So if you look at each year's iteration of new products, on average, the water usage per cycle is dropping, the energy usage per cycle is dropping. And therefore, the important thing is to help people understand the differences between what they have now and what they're going to buy, and within anyone's given budget, because we all have a different budget level, is helping people make those informed choices to buy the most efficient appliances that they can. That's what we're trying to encourage.
And that will, of course, save money.
Well, exactly, yes. And I think the other thing to say is that, depending on your budget, sometimes paying a little bit more initially will save you far more over your life if you look at the overall cost of that water in the appliance or the cost of that energy. So what we're also trying to do is help people make informed choices, not just between the cost of buying the appliance now and the cost of running it, but what's that overall cost of life of one appliance versus another. So how do I get to the lowest cost of total ownership as well as environmental impact?
At Affinity Water, we've got ahead with a campaign called Save Our Streams, which allows our customers, 3.8 million people across the southeast of England, to check what their water footprint is and get free water saving devices and find out how they can save water. And we have got a successful sign-up rate with that. We're also looking at an innovation project, an Ofwat innovation project on water neutrality, to make sure that when new homes are built, that within a community, they don't use more water than when new homes were built. Now that's a concept that's just developing. But is water neutrality something you support?
Absolutely we do, and we are very focused on helping householders, house builders and regulators understand how we get to net zero homes, both in terms of building new homes that are net zero from the start, and actually how do we improve the footprint of the 27 million homes that are out there in using less resources. And of course, appliances and water heating accounts for nearly all of the water consumed in a house. But appliances have benefits. If you wash your dishes and utensils in the sink, you will use on average 8 to 10 times as much water as if you fully fill a dishwasher and run it through its cycle. So there are benefits to using appliances in terms of energy and water efficiency. But it's about helping people understand what that difference is. I think most people wouldn't realise how much more water you do use if you use the sink or running a tap every day to wash dishes as opposed to stacking your dishwasher. So a lot of this is about education and information, isn't it?
And that's what the Affinity Water Save Our Streams campaign has been doing, saying and informing customers in that way and educating them so they do know how much water they are using when, for instance, they're washing dishes, as opposed to putting them in a dishwasher, because it's kind of counterintuitive, isn't it? You would have thought that. But personally, Paul, are there any changes you'd like to see in terms of water use in the home. We've talked about the labelling of white goods and also about water neutrality, but do you think there could be further steps?
If you look at the comparison with energy consumption, what we're now seeing is things like smart meters that are making it very easy to understand what the energy usage is of individual appliances and individual cycles. So if there was a way of actually helping people understand each time they used an appliance or had a shower or filled the sink, flushed the toilet, what that really meant in terms of water usage, I think that would help nudge behaviour in the right way. So perhaps some way of making it as easy to measure water consumption by appliance or function as opposed to electricity that we now have might help nudge behaviour down the pathway of reduced consumption.
So smart meters for water, and perhaps a Fitbit on my wrist one day?
Well, yeah, perhaps why not? Yeah, but I think certainly, I think we think that the key to changing behaviour is providing people with visibility on what the impact of individual actions are, and therefore if you can easily measure what you're doing and what the impact is, you're more likely, and measure the benefit of a behaviour change, you're more likely to embed those better behaviours. It's not about not doing stuff or not using stuff. It's about how do I still achieve the result I need, but in the most efficient manner. That's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to preach people to stop doing stuff. We're trying to show them the benefits of doing the same thing differently and the benefits that can realise.
And the message definitely is finally sustainability saves money.
It definitely does, yeah. We've evidenced that, and we're already seeing the benefits and feedback from people that are trying to do things differently on what they're saving. And let's be honest, in the current climate, if you can equate efficiency to saving money, that is arguably a far greater motivator to get us all to start to change our behaviour.
Paul Hyde of the Manufacturers Association, thank you very much indeed for talking to the Affinity Water podcast series today. I've learned so much.
Thank you very much.